from Einmalines Productions. This is Singletrack, presented by Electric Cable Car. We had another banner week on Electric Cable Car with stories about Zach Miller and Kilian Jornet actively recruiting others to join their boycott to not run UTMB this year. Spartan Trail announced a 2024 calendar of events. The Trail Runner of the Year awards concluded with no other than Jim and Courtney in first place, and the Ultra Runner of the Year is still being announced over the next 3 days, but I don't expect any other outcome there either. Tor X announced a partnership with Chinese outdoor brand Kaya's, and On Running just can't stop making Swiss francs. Their shoes keep selling like hotcakes. If you're interested in these types of articles, then visit electriccablecar.com, sign up for the newsletter, RSS feed, or daily digest email, and stay plugged in with what's happening in the trail and mountain running world. And if you're itching to hit the trails, then join us March 9th in Olympia, Washington at LBA Park for our little backyard adventure 6 and 12-hour races. The 4-mile loop is twisty and fun, with a total of 200 feet of vert, and we'll have some great 8-station fare and lots of fun planned to help you pass the time, run your loops, and reach your goals. Heck, if you're fast, 100K is possible right in the city. Crazy times. Visit littlebackyardadventure.com and sign up. All right, servus people and hello. I'm your host Matthias Eichler, and this week on Singletrack, I'm talking to Federico Hernandez. Finally on the mic, after he and I have been chatting on Mastodon for the past year about cultural differences between European and North American trail running, and in the light of all this UTMB noise or kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it, I thought it would be awesome to chat with Federico, who last year ran Snowdonia, Mozart, and Kullemannan by UTMB. If you're interested in these races and interested in how UTMB manages these events in Europe, then this episode is for you. Federico Hernandez, welcome to Singletrack. Thank you so much for making this happen. We're trying this again. We've had like a few failed starts, but now you're on the show, and now it is actually happening.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Very exciting to chat with you about all things trail running.
It's amazing because we've already talked for 10 minutes and I forgot to hit the record button. So I know a lot more about you than 10 minutes ago. And so I can start a little bit different. You're calling in from Gothenburg in Sweden, but your name, Federico Hernandez, does not sound very Swedish. Tell us a little bit how you ended up there and where you're from. And so, yeah, give us a quick introduction.
Yeah. So originally I'm from Germany, even if I have a Spanish name, but I have some, my father's from Spain, I have a German mother, and born and raised and lived in Germany until I moved to Sweden for work, and then life just happened and I stayed here.
Fantastic. So now you're in Sweden in December. It's really, really dark out. I'm seeing on the video screen and how dark it is out there. Are you just running through the darkness all day right now?
Yeah, if I cannot put in a run during lunch, it's basically Monday through Friday in the darkness with a head torch.
Yeah.
Like probably everyone else as well. I guess a lot of people are running in the mornings before work elsewhere in the world, and it's also dark there. But yeah, it's I think I looked it up. We had 6 hours of daylight right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. That means does that also then mean a lot of being indoors and eating Christmas cookies, like a lot of time spending under the warm light?
I'll try to get out anyway for my runs or for a walk. But yeah, Christmas cookies are good to have in December.
Fantastic.
It's worse in January when you don't have Christmas cookies.
I know. It is very true, right? In December, at least there is this focus, and it's beyond the cookies, right? It's sort of this gathering around light, and then you sort of, you turn the lights off, after Christmas, and you're like, oh yeah, but it's actually
Yeah.
still dark out.
And you have all the Christmas lights, and
Yeah.
people in the houses have all the lights on and so on. Yeah, but it's okay. You get used to it, and you know when days are becoming longer again, and makes you aware of the seasons at least.
Yeah.
And you really long for February, because there you already know see the differences, and then March, boom, it's it's a total difference. And
Yeah.
then on the other hand, in May, June, and July, there is no night. So there's only twilight, which compensates a lot for that.
Hmm. That makes then any kind of training for night running really easy, right? Or welcoming even, right? Do you want to be out during that time? I've never really experienced that before. Is this,
Oh, yes.
yeah?
Yes. It's really interesting. You go out there and it's not really dark, and you don't need a head torch, and it's 1 o'clock a.m. and it's fantastic.
That's
It's
amazing.
really fantastic.
Yeah. That obviously lends itself for you being a runner and spending a lot of time out. I think we as runners, especially on a proper training and a proper routine, we sort of get to know the seasons really well, right? Because we sort of have a regular time where we always sort of are out on the road or the trails or stuff. Tell me a little bit about your running. How did you get into it?
Yeah, I was always active, and I did a lot of endurance stuff, and then weird endurance stuff during my military service in Germany. And then you move to Gothenburg, and you then see the largest half marathon happening here in the city with 60,000 people participating. So you get into that running mood and training for that, and you participate there. You continue with your running, and then you end up being, or I ended up being a runner, joining a running club, doing marathons and fast road marathons and so on. And then at some point you long for more, or you question yourself: is there something beyond the the marathon? And you know that you did your personal best in the marathon. You might not be able to do anything faster, but then you 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers, or 90 kilometers. And then, yeah, you try these things out, and then you end up automatically on the trails.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like what you say. You question yourself. Do you see it as a challenge? How far can you go? Is it I get older, I can't compete on pace and speed anymore at the marathon, so I'm looking for an alternative. Like what drew you to the long distances?
Um, it was kind of like the challenge, and to see if it's possible to do more.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I ran a marathon, and I did 2:46 there, and I said, okay, that's okay.
Mhm.
My goal was to run a marathon within 1 minute per kilometer slower than the current world record at that time.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
that was my goal. I think 1 minute per kilometer slower than the world record. That would be fantastic, and I managed that. And then I said, what is the next challenge? And then I saw, oh, there is this cross country skiing event in Sweden, Vasaloppet, which is 90 kilometers in February.
Mhm.
And I'm so bad at cross country skiing that I would never be able to finish it. But they had this running event during summer where they had a team competition. 10 runners split up the 90 kilometers among themselves.
Okay.
Um, and we went up with a running club to participate there with two teams. And then I said, could be interesting to run this yourself. Then at least I would be able to do the 90 kilometers running and not with skis. So I signed up as a single team uh, with one runner
Yeah.
doing all the 10 10 distances there. And yeah, that was basically my first ultra trail.
So this is an interesting progression because you sort of describing and I'm leading us into a conversation to slowly talk about UTMB, but you
Yeah.
sort of um, it's interesting because we're talking about how people get introduced to trails, and some people get introduced to trails by seeing in the media, maybe YouTube or wherever, right? These beautiful mountain races, and that even opens up their minds of like, oh, this something like this exists. But for you, it's more seeing the local event, right? You saw something a local, and that excited you. At this point, you didn't know that UTMB existed in a sense. I mean, you perhaps heard of it, but you didn't. It wasn't already on your radar as a goal, right?
No, it was not on my radar as a goal. On my radar or my goal was what could I personally do, and then I
Hmm.
saw, okay, there was this possibility to see if I could run 90 kilometers, and I did that as a challenge, and it was also nice to go up to northern Sweden and see the landscape there. That's how I did all my marathons before, combining them with traveling and as a sightseeing event.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
you go to Berlin or you go to Chicago, and then we all combine that with a vacation. Go to Boston, combine that with a vacation. It's like this. The race is exciting, but also the rest that you do with the race and the trip is exciting.
Yeah. I mean, this is
Uh,
this is how lots of Europeans do sort of their vacation. It's adventure vacation, right? It's
yeah,
vacation
exactly.
that is being active, that's not just sitting on the beach, that
Yep.
exists too. And it's
Yeah,
also nice every now and then, right?
yeah.
But the idea of
And
like we're combining this something exciting that we're exploring
yeah,
and
it's the event and the rest of it. So
Mhm.
you combine both things, and that then happened as well with the progression then with a couple of other ultras. They were always in interesting parts of Sweden or in Europe as
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
kind of like interesting, challenging events. Did way back. There was a local running club in Germany doing a winter 50K on a loop course, and well, it could be exciting to see how good you could run a 50K during winter time on snow with temperatures below freezing. So that was a nice event. There was a mountain race in Spain, combined that with vacation there
Mhm.
and so on. So it was always like the challenge together with the the traveling and the surroundings.
Yeah. That's amazing. How did you sort of hear about these events? How does one find out what races to tackle and how does one then also determine how do you decide this is one that I want to do, right? I mean, do you look at a
Yeah.
website? Like what are sort of do you watch YouTube
So
videos about it? So
so in the past it was always during the expos
ah,
of the marathon race. You had all the other races at the
ah,
expo
yeah, yeah.
presenting themselves. There was this mountain race. There was this other marathon, or there was this trail race, and there was different these kind of things. And then you pick up those leaflets, and then the night before the race you read through them, and then you get excited, and then you bring them back home, and then less the web at that time. But I guess then yeah, you check the web and you see what kind of area it is. Is it something where you would do some vacation as well, or spend a day or two as well?
Hmm. Hmm. And that's amazing. I love the idea because I still see and hear about these races advertising themselves at expos, but I nowadays with social media and the web, it
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
really feel like that is really worth the effort or the cost for the booth, right? But it's funny to hear that that is sort of what created that draw for you. And then
I mean, the entry fees in these events, especially the locally run ones, they're so inexpensive too, right? I mean, it becomes,
Oh,
yeah,
it
no?
depends on. It
Dep-
depends on. So back in the days, yes. Nowadays, I would say it's not that cheap either with local events as well.
Okay, okay.
And there are some local trail events here that I would say if you would translate, they're not doing 100 miles or 100 kilometers. Let's say they do 50Ks or 60, 70K races. And if you translate the fees for the length of the race and you compare them with the big races
Hmm.
out there internationally, you end up at the same price.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
And yeah, and then it depends always a lot on who's doing that race. Is
Hmm.
is it a running club, a non-profit running club that is organizing the race, or is it some race event company behind it? Because that differs in the price
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
a lot. And then how I select these local races is often like I'm training on these trails. Do I want to pay $80 or $100 to to race on the trails where I normally train
Hmm.
or not?
Yeah.
So that's why I normally local races less, but more like if there is some weekend trip involved,
Hmm.
that draws me more and gets more of my attention.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I think I would be the same. I would feel the same. I might do a local race if I need a specific training objective, or if I know that there are going to be lots of people that I know, right? If it's
Yes.
camaraderie, community, right?
Yep.
And I say, hey, I want to be part
And
of that.
yeah, and it helps also during the training. I mean, you need to do a long run. Yeah, it's easier to do a long run, uh, 50K during a race than you're out on your own.
Hmm. Hmm. So you mentioned Berlin and Boston. So you've run the world marathon, those world marathon majors?
Yes.
Okay. So you're familiar, and I mean that large half marathon in Gothenburg. So you're familiar with these really big events. How do you go? Tell us a little bit the journey from where you sort of started to setting your eyes on UTMB.
Um, I guess it started again with the challenge behind it.
Hmm.
Is there something that you could attempt to do and you might succeed to do, but it's tough?
Okay.
And it's something that you not do on your own, but you would be part of an event. And
Hmm.
yeah, I did all this road running and also timed ultras with 24-hour races and so on. And I know what I could do there. When I then switched over to more trail races, I did some good trail races, and then I did a lot of DNFs as well, and then I paused the running and I started up again. Uh, and yeah, the trail running felt natural because there was a different challenge to tackle than the um, the speed and pace and
Hmm.
fast
Hmm.
marathons.
Yeah.
You run a road marathon, the only challenge there is to do it faster,
Yeah.
not not do it differently.
Hmm.
But on the trails and mountains, it's always different race. The conditions are different. Uh, the elevation gain is different. The underground is different. How technical it is, and so on. So you have all these varieties there that each race is different and a new challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and on
And
top of it, you run in such diverse environments, right? Like in
yep,
this year you tackled 3 different UTMB events in 3 different countries in 3 completely different environments, right? I mean, this, number one, this is a very focused effort. So you clearly set your sight on trying to get into UTMB for 2024. You entered the lottery.
I entered the lottery, yeah, but I'm still on the verge of either withdraw or maybe not accept, because I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet.
Oh,
No.
oh.
Even if I did the 3 ones, and that was more by chance, it was okay. I knew the one here in Sweden, the 100 miles Kullemannan, and we can talk about that one because it was amazing.
Yeah.
But the other 2s were, so I wanted to do a mountain race this year in the summer in the Alps, around 100 kilometers, also in preparation then for a couple of months later, the 100-mile event. And I was debating there 2 races because they were in June, and they fitted my schedule quite good. And one was Mozart 100 in Salzburg, and the other one, actually the same weekend, was the Zugspitz Ultra Trail in Garmisch. Um, there was almost a tie between both of them to do because they're interesting on different parts. I then decided against Zugspitz because they had switched this year the starting time for the 100-kilometer event to 10 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the Mozart 100 started at 5 a.m. And in June, when I signed up for the race in January, I did not consider myself ready to run in the Alps during the night.
Okay.
So that's why I decided then, okay, I'll do the Mozart. Oh, it's a UTMB event. Okay, good. Get some stones, but it was not the primary goal to run it because of the stones. I wanted to run a mountain race in June around 100 kilometers, and it was available there. Without, let's say, if Zugspitz would have started again in the morning like they did in the past, I would probably have chosen that one.
Okay.
Because of the landscape and where it's running in Garmisch.
I mean, it's a beautiful area, right?
Exactly.
Zugspitz Arena is absolutely breathtaking. It's a really, really nice course. Well, before we talk about Mozart, let's quickly talk about Snowdonia, because I love having you on. You ran Snowdonia 55K, you ran a Mozart 100K, and you ran the Kullemannan 100-miler just this November. So you can give us, number one, tell us how your races went, of course, but you also can give us a unique perspective of how 3 different UTMB events are in 3 different countries are sort of different, like you see, right? Because over here, number one, in North America, the UTMB organization is predominantly run and organized by Ironman. So while the UTMB banners are up, it is a little bit of a different organization, and many of the races don't have the history that the races Kullemannan and Mozart have. And name recognition they've had way before their affiliation with UTMB. So let's talk and start with Snowdonia, because Snowdonia, lots of people know. It is actually a fascinating race because the race director sold the race to UTMB, but is doing additional races in this same area under his own umbrella, right? You sent me a link a while ago, which is kind of a fascinating story. So when you affiliate yourself with UTMB, you're not becoming completely usurped and disappear, right? You get to do other stuff. So let's tell us about Snowdonia.
So that happened also by chance, because I was during that weekend or the days before in England, close to Wales with a job, and then I had the chance to sign up, and there were spaces available this year for the year next year's race. It's already sold out, so it became that attractive. You still felt when you arrived at the village and the entire race and center and arena, that there is still the local vibe from before around. The like race, how you would experience races in England with a local organizer and very organized and planned through. So that went very well. The race itself was fantastic and amazing. I've never run in so technical terrain.
Okay.
That was really, really hard, but fantastic. We experienced the warmest May day they ever had with 26, 27 degrees Celsius, blue skies. So we saw all the mountains. It was really, really good. The warm weather caused problems for a lot of runners because of running dry and not planning accordingly with high hydration. I didn't have any problems with that, and in the end, if it's warm, you're an adult. You need to find out and decide for yourself what you can do and not do, and not depend on anyone telling you take extra flask with you or try to fill up the waters outside of aid stations or try to cool down. Anyway, no, it was fantastic and it was good organized. I didn't feel any problems with this now being a UTMB event. You saw UTMB there, but you still had the local flair. As before. People telling me.
So it seemed to have been a sort of a good adoption in some respects, right?
Yes.
And it seemed to have been a sort of the way we hope it, right? You can run this race to get your stones, and there's some banners around, but it is still by and large a local race because it's run in some respects still very much by local race director in the local community, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was also there before. It just changed name.
Yeah.
Whatever that means when you sell a race or you adopt the large UTMB umbrella on top of it, which I guess means also help in terms of logistics, because you get there, you saw that they had equipment there that might not have been possible to use if it would have been a local small organizer.
Yeah, when it comes to finish line shoot and stuff, right? I mean, there feels to be a little bit more structure there than what on average local race organization would put up.
And also with the surrounding, this was open air expo, so I guess it attracts more. But there were also local brands and local shops available and doing their marketing there.
So it wasn't fully locked in to just Hoka and Wahoo or whatever,
no,
right? And whatever. No,
definitely not.
That's great. So
I didn't see any. Okay, I was my first time there. I haven't seen them before, but for me, it felt like this was always like it was, and very, very positive, familiar atmosphere.
Yeah. So you do this race, and again, right? I mean, you have 3 UTMB races on your calendar this year, but completely by happenstance. You explained that Snowdonia, so you didn't like strategically sign up and say, how do I maximize stones because I need to run in Chamonix, right? It was literally like, okay, I am there anyway for work. I might as well run it. And then you switched to Mozart a month later. You wanted a mountain race. Yeah.
And that one, I signed up early on in January, as I signed up also for Kullemannan, my real A race, also in the beginning of January. That has to do with first, I wanted to ensure that that they don't fill up. I have my space, but then also using up the benefits of being able to expense the race fees at work as a health benefit.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the Swedish way of doing things. You have a certain amount of allowance that you can spend on health activities, and
Fantastic.
that includes even the sign up fees for a race.
That is amazing. I love that.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. Okay, so you planned this out in January.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And the 100K in Mozart was as a preparation for Kullemannan. I wanted. It has been a long time that I have done an ultra race before, and I wanted to just get back into it and be out there in a nice environment and see if I can do the 100K, how I feel afterwards, if I need to change anything in the training, prepare better or differently. And I tackled as well, like Snowdonia and Mozart. I wanted to race them, but I didn't want to race them in a way that it would require 2 weeks of recovery. I wanted to race them and then just be able, with a day or two, continue my training.
that's for me personally, that's always a tall order. Because I always find my body and my mind once at first, and then like 3 days into the training, right after a race, that's when my body falls apart. That's when I all of a sudden at first it feels good. It feels like, oh yeah, I've done this for a long time. I can do this, and then all of a sudden everything falls apart. And so I've been very hesitant of like jumping back in. But let's tell me a little bit more about Mozart. I'm really curious
Yeah.
about it. You said it's a mountain race, but the pictures make it look very tame, very close to the
Oh yes,
city. Does it feel
it's
like a mountain race?
oh it feels like a mountain race. I would say light.
Okay. Yeah.
You're in the mountains, not that high as any other mountain race, like I would say in Switzerland, Wilstrubel or Eiger or Lavaredo, for example. It's these what you could call Mittelgebirge in
Yeah,
German.
yeah. Perfect. I
Yeah,
love this. Yeah, yeah.
medium mountains.
Hmm.
You go up to, I think, 2,000 meters, 1,800 meters, something like that. And it's not very technical either. It's
Hmm.
like nice gravel trails. The first mountain that was a technical part with a lot of roots and stones on it. But compared to Snowdonia, it was like running on a highway. Uh, but yeah, you had the distance then, 107K, and you had the elevation gain with 5,400, 600 meters,
Hmm.
and the length. So it was a different challenge, but was a little bit of mountains, but not that much that you would feel exhausted or it would destroy you completely.
Hmm. Hmm. And the experience running Mozart has been a brand name of a race for many years. Did it feel very professional? Did it feel very structured and organized? How did the race feel?
Yeah, it felt that they knew what they were doing.
Hmm.
And that may be because they had this for a long time, and it was done also by the people that normally do Ironman in Austria, as I understood it.
Hmm.
So, and that maybe is also the Austrian way not in a bad way, but
Hmm.
in the Austrian way of organizing things. You have this disciplined, organized thing, like that they do, which is good because there were no surprises, and so it felt very organized, very controlled, and yeah. Not
That's,
that the other races were bad, but it was really like it was more structured,
mhm.
I would
This,
say.
I wonder if it has something to do with the Austrians having such a long history in organizing sporting events too, right? I mean, especially in the mountains with all of the winter sports and stuff, there's sort of a basic understanding of this is how we welcome the community to our tourist destination, and we are
Hmm?
putting an event on, right? Does it, when it is so organized, does it feel cold? Does it still feel like the community embraces you, or is it more structured in a way you're just a number that gets pushed through?
It felt larger than Snowdonia, but
Okay.
they also had more races and more racers, more participants, and more distances, and they also needed to shuffle them around in a different way with buses to the different starting points. But it didn't felt um, unwelcoming or unfriendly. It felt like a good organized event as any other, let's say, big
Mm.
road city marathon.
Yeah, okay. On that scale then already, right?
You go there, you run, you have fun, but you
Hmm.
also know what to expect.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a level of feeling comfort in the order, in the structure, right? Because
Yeah,
you're there to perform on a high level.
yeah. I
And
mean, yeah, even if it was like not my A race and I treated it a little bit more like a B race, training race, you have a time commitment. You go there, you travel there, so it takes you up your time, it takes up your money. So you want this to be a good experience.
Mhm, mhm,
And then you, of course, you notice the difference between Salzburg, which is a tourist magnet,
mhm, mhm,
and you also see it in the race because it attracted. And I saw much more people from elsewhere.
mm,
So the day before, on a shakeout discovery tour around the city, I met with participants from Asia, from South America, and North America, which I didn't see that many of them in England.
mhm, mhm.
So it was more like, yeah, you go to this event to run it, but also experience the city, the country, the surroundings.
Yeah, yeah. And you connect with sort of this global running community then, right?
Yeah,
Which then turns an event that is still managed by and large by a local community in some respects, right? But it turns it into a global event, which then also requires more structure, right? You can't just rely on wink, wink, nudge, nudge, handshake. We all know how this is done. You have to have some order. Pick your bibs up here. Here's where the bathrooms are. Here's the structure of how the day unfolds, right?
yes, and there's a start, and there goes the buses to the other starts,
Hmm.
and then you have the aid stations, and they were run, as I saw it, by local village community clubs or sports clubs.
Hmm.
So they have manned them locally, but
Hmm.
it was structured. You saw how they worked, and you had always someone there as an aid station captain that was there around and had the experience to do them and cater the runners in a good way.
Yeah. No, fantastic.
So
So,
yeah, you saw the structure there.
yeah. So this was your mountain race. This was your objective to run in the Alps. And even though you say it was sort of mountain light, how did you feel? Did you feel like you achieved your objective? You
Oh
you
yeah.
g- you got out what you were hoping for in terms of experience and stuff, and for yourself?
Oh yes. First, I wanted to finish it,
Hmm.
and I finished it, and because I didn't know, okay, 5,600 meters. It's a kind of good elevation gain, nevertheless. And I survived that, and then the distance, and then the time on feet. I was out there for 18 hours, and I felt good afterwards.
Amazing. That's super cool. So that obviously gave you a lot of confidence leading up to the race that you had already signed up earlier. So you knew in the back of your mind as you were running Mozart and preparing for Mozart that Kullemannan was on the horizon. You had a few months to prepare in between. It wasn't a 1-2 like Snowdonia and Mozart, but we need to talk about Kullemannan. It's such a unique event, and I mean the images are amazing, and there's such a story and lore there, and it's a really, really fascinating event. Now, were you attracted to it because of the spectacle around it, or because it was convenient, right, right outside your door?
I guess it was both.
Yeah. Okay.
So, of course, it's easy to reach 2 hours by car. So, but then I wanted to see if I can do 100 miles, because previously I tried 100 miles event 2 times, and I have failed big
Okay.
time on those. So even if I did run longer than 100 miles, but there were 24 hours events. So I did 24 hours events, and I did 200 kilometers, 197 kilometers on them. So I passed 100 miles, but in real 100-mile races, I have my attempts I did not finish
Okay.
beforehand, and now I said now it's time to try again and see if I can do those.
You give me hope. You give me hope because
Yes.
I struggle with the really long distances, and seeing that you have it in you to not give up, to readjust your training, to get back out there gives me hope. It's great to hear.
And also I changed my a little bit the perspective of how to tackle those. When I did when I did them previously, they were more runnable events, and I was still full in the marathon road racing mindset. You cannot you cannot you cannot walk during a 100-mile race. You need to run.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So and then you get to 120 kilometers or 130 kilometers, and then you just, at that time, I'm in the middle of the pack runner. After 120K, the body and the mind just said no. I could have walked it home now, with hindsight of a couple of years. But yeah, this was my thing. It's close by. It's 100 miles. I wanted to see if I can do that, even if I did this in 24-hour events. But this is just flat, running in circles. So it's differently. And then also the myth, and the atmosphere, and the myth around the Kullemannan event itself, because it has this status here in Sweden of being this hard, cruel, difficult race.
Yeah. So you wanted to throw yourself into something hard and cruel and difficult. And it is that because of the time of year. I mean, this is like almost the entire thing in the dark.
It's almost in the dark. I say now that it starts at 6 in the evening and then it's dark, and it becomes daylight where you can turn your head torch off, headlamp, at around 8 a.m. And then you need to turn it on again if you run, let's say, slower than 24 hours. You need to turn it on again. So you run maybe 2/3, 3/4 of the race in the dark.
And that along the coast on technical trail.
Yes. It's not high again on mountain, but it's very hilly, depending on how they do the course. It's also, in the past, the course always has changed.
Okay.
Now I think they will try to maintain it in the same way for a couple of years. it was had to do with permits and to do always something different, and a challenge itself as well. So the history of Kullemannan goes back 20 something years, where the race director and a couple of friends were racing in England on those mountain races, these famous things, and they had problems with finishing them, and they wanted to do some local training race in Sweden to prepare themselves better.
Okay.
So that's how this Kullemannan and the race before Kullemannan, that is the predecessor, started. So they wanted to have a local training race to prepare themselves for the mountain races in England.
Okay.
So they made
And then
it
they
on purpose.
decided to add a rider on a horse and a giant torch, fire and
This,
everything.
yeah, this is then the entire history behind where the race passes. Kullaberg, the mountain or hill. There is this myth around this soldier or sorcerer, something like that, and then they pack it really good into it to provide a nice story and surrounding and make it like a challenge and adventure.
Fantastic.
Participate in an adventure there, and it was it's from year to year it's changes, but it's kind of technical, terrain, difficult. You need to navigate. It's very good marked. Still, it's in the darkness. And the other thing is also it's on purpose made a little bit difficult, but also sparse with aid stations. So you have longer than usual on other races. So the longest distance was 28 kilometers between two aid stations.
Oh wow, that's long for a 100-mile race. That's long, right?
And no crew allowed, no external bases allowed, nothing. So you're just on your own, one drop back. But it's also done on it's how they want this to be. It should be a tough, hard challenge for you. It's a little bit more like fat ass style thing.
Oh, okay. I like it. Yeah.
There are aid stations, but some aid stations might be less equipped than others.
Okay.
So some only water and sports drink.
Oh, that's
Nothing.
interesting. Okay, so
then you need to be self-supported in a different way than compared to the other races.
And all of this in fairly low temperature and in wind and rain.
This year we didn't have rain, but wind. So that was good. It rained until the day before, and that's why the terrain was also very boggy, muggy, and difficult to pass. And sometimes we had to wade through knee-deep water. So reaching the aid station at halfway point where the drop back was a relief, because I could switch to dry shoes and dry socks after having had wet shoes and wet socks for 12 hours.
Wow, I was just going to ask that. Amazing.
Yeah, I had 30 minutes of dry shoes and dry socks.
I was just going to say, how long is it going to last when you are out there?
and that was fantastic. Just those 30 minutes.
That's 30
was
minutes.
So elevating, which was great.
I once switched my shoes at an aid station at mile 60, I think, or so of a race, and I had not looked at the aid station at the course profile proper, and I literally within half a mile of leaving the aid station with fresh shoes and socks, we had to wade through a river. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could have saved myself that change. That wasn't worth it. That was like half a mile.
No, but and then other than that, the race also so it felt very local again.
Hmm.
It was very familiar atmosphere. A lot of Swedish runners, of course, because it's, I think maybe, I don't know the numbers, but there were 800 people on the 100-mile distance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The same for the 100K and then 700 for the 50K event. And then they had a 20K event as well. But it felt very, very familiar, small scale event, and but you also notice that they had done this for 20 years.
There's a level of understanding of here's how we gonna run this event, right?
Yes, and how we want it to be, and how they still maintain it to be. At least it felt for me. Even I did this now the first time, but I've seen the videos from the past and talked to people from the past. They still say it felt like before.
So again, UTMB
but
shows up and you get the stones, but the race doesn't change much.
It didn't, at least I think it didn't change much. Some people said, yeah, it was now maybe too easy. It was harder in the past.
Okay.
Could I don't know. We did 2 rounds on that hill in the past. They did 3. Yeah, they exchanged it for something else. But now that it was possible to run from A to B instead of just the course loops. I think what their goal was, and I think it showed it showed up in a good way. It was help with the logistics and equipment, and being able to accommodate a larger number of runners and give them the possibility to race without having to cut down the field because they don't have the possibilities. To the difference also, the 2 main race directors, it's a side job. This race is their side job. They don't have a company that does racing events during the other parts of the year, or in like at other places. They were runners. They needed a training race in the past. They come up with this race. It grew, and
now that's what they do, but they're not a racing company. They do 15 other races, right? It's really, that's part of what they do, but then they have to do others.
They do this one thing here, and then they have other jobs. And
Amazing.
I think for them it helps to be part of this umbrella.
Yeah.
And they still maintain this more kind of like rebel status within the UTMB race directors and so on. You should try to get him onto the show.
I would love to. Absolutely. I would love to. I don't know that the struggle that I have is I don't know contractually how much they're allowed to say and stuff, right? But I would love to talk to the race directors for sure.
He was doing a podcast in Sweden where he was quite open. So I think you would be able to
I'll reach out to him for sure.
Nice histories and nice background explained to you. Also, the history of the race and why they joined UTMB.
Super. Okay, I'll look. Well, it's in Swedish, so I won't be able to listen to it. That's the problem with the podcasts, right? If they'd be if it'd be an article, I could hit Google Translate. I could get the gist of it, but if it's a podcast, it's stuck in there. I'll get them on the show. Well, let's talk about you and your race. You had a fantastic race, right? I mean, you finished, which previously eluded you. Congratulations, you got
Yeah.
a 100-miler, and you chose a 100-miler that was extra hard on top of it. So even more well done. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was the main thing. I wanted to finish it, and I didn't have any time goals. Of course, you were thinking, oh, this could be possible, and then you made up your race plan for it so that you could at least plan a little bit. But it went better than I thought, and it was fantastic.
Super. Absolutely amazing. Well,
And
everybody who says that they don't have a time goal, they all have a time goal.
before the cutoff, the time goal
Exactly,
was to
exactly.
go
That's a
in there
time goal.
before
Is not get
before
cut.
before the
Amazing.
cutoff. But no, it was it, it was good. Yeah, you felt tired and exhausted, but I had mentally never struggled to finish it.
Super. That's amazing. People always say that so much of ultras is mental, and to be so dialed, even though the weather, the environment was not the most exciting, right? You didn't go from mountain vista to mountain vista, right? And
No,
it's great. It's amazing.
no, it was good. It was tough then towards the end, of course. They put in two good climbs towards the end that were a good challenge also with the mud, and then the most say depressing or mentally thing was you pass the finish, you hear the finish line 200 meters to your right, but you need then to do another nice loop of 5-6 kilometers
Okay.
out and back towards the finish, and that was really tough.
Yeah.
Even if you know
I've run races where you can hear the finish and you still have to go back out, and that can be real mindfuck.
yeah, and it was a little bit like that
Yeah.
also, but it was a cool, good race, very good organized, with the transportation from the finish to the start, having access at the start to a warm sports hall. Then the event at the start, it was feeling like, oh, yeah, this is like a music and all this thing like UTMB, but the Swedish way, Kullemannan way, with this soldier on the horse.
Fantastic. So now you've got how many stones you have now? 7
9.
from this year alone, but you've got a
9.
couple more, 9
No,
stones.
9 in total. 4th re-enter
Okay.
from this 50 kilometers. Snowdonia gave me 2, Mozart gave me 3, and Kullemannan gave me 4.
Oh yeah, 9. Perfect. So you entered the UTMB lottery, but you are not sure if you're gonna stay in it
Or accept it.
or accept
like
it.
that. Yes.
Yeah. And you entered the full UTMB because you could just do CCC, right? If you
I was struggling with that as well, but then I said, okay, if I do it, I want to do the full thing,
okay.
not just CCC. Of course, it could be a preparation, but then I would have to go back to Chamonix once more and do other races with other stones and so on. And maybe that happens because I might find a nice trail race where I'm going to do vacation as well, or combining with sightseeing that by chance is a UTMB race. Maybe not, but it would still then require, okay, I would need to go 2 times to Chamonix. Do I want to spend the time there? Not because it's not nice or not fun, but there are so many other things to experience. And 4 or 5 days a week, 2 years in a row might might be okay, but you could also spend, okay, I've now been there to Chamonix. What else can I experience? What else can I see? What else can I race?
Yeah. So you
That's
see it as
kind
a
of the thing.
one-time opportunity, so therefore you need to be the most dialed. Well, but if you don't accept it, then
The points are gone, I guess.
you have the points back, right? Or no? No, you get half the points back, right?
You get half the points back, yes.
Ooh, that's a tough one, because then on top of it, if you don't accept because you want to be better prepared, you then also have to run another UTMB race to get more stones.
Yeah, if you think that you need more, because it could be. I just before our conversation started, UTMB sent out a mail like with a thank you for 2023 and welcoming everyone to 2024, where they actually said that they had 85,000 runners participating in all UTMB races this year, and they collected 175,000 stones. So if you do the math, on average, 2 points per runner.
Oh, yeah. I haven't even looked at it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
actually think you have a good chance of getting in
I
because
don't know. I would say the amount of stones that people have to enter a race have increased during the year.
Mhm.
Not everyone signed up for this year and got elected, because you keep your stones if you're not lucky in the lottery.
Yeah,
And
exactly. So there are more stones for people from last year who have
yes, and so
accumulated.
they
Yes.
have accumulated this number, and I think people determined to join UTMB might have raced again and collected more stones there. So I would say the average number of stones has increased per runner. I would assume something like that.
Yeah, I
Last
agree.
year, I think it was 3.6 or 7 stones of the people entering and getting lucky in the lottery. I don't know if it will also increase the number of people entering the lottery compared to last year or this year, because now it's two years after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Had more time to participate in races, train, and accommodate the collection of this. So yeah, no, I don't know. I would like to participate. I would like to be elected in the lottery, because that would also mean, yeah, you need to train.
Then you have your A goal set for the year.
Yes, and nothing else.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that makes me a little bit hesitant is, am I ready for this challenge? I don't just want to go there and try it. There should be a realistic chance of being able to do it, and being able to do it in a way that you would enjoy it. Of course, it will be tough. You will be smashed and tired, but there's a difference if you're able to enjoy it during this or not.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's a very sane assessment that I can very much subscribe to myself too, right? You certainly don't want to go out there if you know there's a high chance of a DNF, even though there is a high
Oh
chance of
yes.
DNF looking at the average people that DNF.
Oh yeah, but it's still, can you decrease your own doubts? Can you prepare yourself in a way that you think, yeah, you are ready for this?
Yeah. That's why
And
I put into OCC instead of CCC. I'm eligible for both. And I'm
Mhm.
debating because I think by math, someone said that CCC might have a higher chance of getting in, right? But I feel like I know I can finish OCC and I know I can enjoy it, wherein CCC would be daunting at this point, and I would have to prepare myself a lot harder for it.
Yep.
My coach thinks I should do CCC because he wants me to properly commit and do something really hard and difficult, but I think OCC would be better for me. So let's talk about two last things. And I appreciate all the time. I hope you don't have anything else going on because we have two
No,
more.
it's fine. We can continue with this until Christmas.
Okay, let's not go that long. Two questions. If you end up pulling yourself out of the lottery or not accepting, what would be your alternative for the year? Do you have anything on your horizon that you would be wanting to do instead?
Oh yes, I have already signed up for Kullemannan again.
Ooh, okay. And the 100-miler again?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay. So no, so if whatever happens, you'll I mean you self-finish, but you get your stones. You get your chance to increase your stones. So the
Yeah, see if I
motivation for
will speed with them.
Kullemannan was it just such a fantastic experience that you want more of that?
Oh, it was it was a interesting experience, and I want to see if I can do it better.
Okay.
Then there is also this attraction of getting another ring. You know, they give the 100-mile race gives out rings as
Oh,
no medals, and
yeah.
if you do 3 races, you will then you will get a gold ring.
I
So
see.
there is some attraction
I see.
there. So it might be even a third one coming up. I don't know.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, no. So cool. Before that, the spring is already. I have 2 races planned for the spring. One is here in Sweden, a 60-kilometer one along the coast in the southern part. There's I don't know. There's this theme with running along the coast for me, or with races. And then we signed up for in May for the Rennsteiglauf in Germany.
Oh, amazing. Yes. I can't wait to hear how this one's going.
Yeah,
I just learned about this event and I can't wait to hear how you experience that
yeah,
because it's such a
which is
massive race.
75 kilometers in the eastern part of Germany
Mhm.
with, I think, is it 2,500 on the long
On the
distance?
longest, I don't know what the
Yeah,
breakdown is, right? But
I
I
think,
think
yeah.
combined with all the distances, it's close to 10,000 runners, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's cool because it's a former East Germany event.
And it's 50 years old as well.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
has been
exactly.
around for 50 years, and it's also uh, organized and done by a non-profit sports club,
Mm-hmm,
which
hmm
is different than any other trailer race that you normally hear about. And that one will be interesting because we're going to run it together, me and my wife.
Oh, super. Amazing. That's amazing.
And
Is that for her longest? Or does she regularly join you on these super long ones?
she has done in the past longer races than this,
Okay,
and
okay.
really good. She's more the non-technical gravel
hmm
as tarmac road racer.
So
But
she'll
also,
do well at Rennsteiglauf, right? Which is very
yes,
much forest roads and stuff. There's not really a
exactly,
lot of technical single track in there, right?
exactly. And she has done even longer things, so
Amazing.
up to 180 kilometers. So
Oh,
we'll enjoy ourselves there.
yeah, amazing.
If not, then that UTMB in the summer, they're debating a mountain race again, a tough one, but maybe not 100 miles, only up to 110 kilometers
hmm hmm
in Switzerland, probably.
Okay, which one you're looking at?
I'm either looking at Wildstrubel or then at the Extraverse in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Verbier.
Yeah, very beer.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
there's also Austria, an option with the cut.
So you are now
So
very focused on UTMB events.
not not UTMB events. It's more the area. Is there a race?
Okay.
And there are other races as well that I'm looking at. It's maybe a thing with scheduling, time, summer, vacation,
That it ends up just.
dedicated to the traveling. And if I want to do the UTMB later on, the real one, then yeah, why not combine it with something that can get some points, but it's not the primary goal.
Okay. So you've got a busy year. My last question is around this whole controversy that UTMB sort of like unfolded over these last couple months. First was the Whistler event announcement, and now we're sort of we're firing Corinne Malcolm as an announcer. I have a couple questions. Number one is, does this news arrive in Europe? Is it something that you're aware of, that you pay attention to? Do you talk to other runners about this? Like over here, it feels like among a sort of certain group, meaning all the American elite runners, are all openly talking about if they should be participating in and traveling to Chamonix this coming summer. And so there's a big focus right now, and I'm curious how this arrives for you as a runner who just wants to enjoy races, who isn't interested in being an elite runner and sponsored or whatever, right? Like, does this controversy arrive? What do you think about it? What do you hear? I'm curious.
It's kind of like sometimes you hear something, sometimes you don't hear anything at all, or you hear it afterwards, like with the announcer being fired of UTMB. I haven't heard about that probably days afterwards, and I even didn't realize that it was her, because when I was watching the UTMB live broadcast, I always listened to the Spanish broadcaster and the German ones, because I like their way of talking and commenting the races better than on the English one. So I didn't even.
That alone is already a fascinating statement. Tell us, what's the difference? I have not paid attention to the other, and I should pay attention to the German one, of course. What is different for you?
I don't know. It attracts me in the way how they talk and comment on the race. It's maybe just a personal thing that I enjoy listening them more than the English commentators.
Okay. Fascinating.
It's
okay,
kind of like when you watch a football soccer game, some commentators you don't like them, you cannot stand them, and some others you enjoy much more. And for the races, it was always like switching between German and Spanish was a good combination for me. So I didn't even realize the controversy with her. In the beginning, you don't read that much of if you don't follow her on social media and so on. There are some voices on the UTMB things, but it's more like mentioning that this is happening. But yeah, I guess Whistler is in Canada, which is far off on the other side of the Atlantic, and we have our races here. Kullemannan works. There's people don't see a real difference happening there. It's still attractive to people to do it and then join year after year. And then, of course, it probably going from Sweden to other European races is different than from the US to Europe with traveling.
In what way do you think it's different?
you probably can do a race and participate a race if it's UTMB or not UTMB, even other races. There are these series done in England that from Centurion running, for example, all the 50 miles and 100 miles that they have in southern England, which you can probably just also tackle over a weekend as an excursion or as a small vacation trip, because you have this planned anyway to do during summer or something else. And then you combine your vacation with a race to make it more sustainable than just traveling for a race. So I guess at least the people I know of and talk to and have met during races, a lot of people select the races because of the race and the event and the where it is, and it doesn't matter who organizes it. It's just a secondary thing.
Yeah.
And maybe that is because of most people also combining or coming from the marathon part and the road races, where you just sign up for a race and you don't care who organizes it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think on one side in North America we have fewer UTMB options, so there is a lot more focus on the events that are actually giving you stones to get to Chamonix. And then further, I think we as Americans, we don't know about a lot of other races in Europe and think sort of UTMB, Chamonix is sort of, it's the world's epicenter for trail running, right? But it is sort of the only thing. And so it becomes sort of a very forced funnel of these are the only options that I have to really get to experience that.
And then you have the other races. I mean, you have all the other races that you could look up and find through the ITRA webpage.
Yeah.
We talked beforehand about the Zugspitz Ultra, which is a large race. Has been around for a couple of years. It's in a nice part of Germany and Austria, and very good organized, and also attracts a good amount of people. And that is also one thing that I want to do once.
Yeah.
But it needs to fit in the calendar schedule of life, work, family, and all the other races and training.
Yeah.
So if you have a certain amount of time, you want to do those strategically that fits throughout the entire year. You cannot just race month after month, and it becomes unsustainable. Also with regards to training and your body and your money and in the environment and family and work. And then you might maybe find the other races now. There's these Trail Major series to promote other races, but they have been also around beforehand and they're old. Centurion has been around for ages with their Southdown Way 100, the race in Spain that is part of the series, so or in Asia. You could select those if they fit in your calendar and your traveling vacation
objectives, almost, right? Plans and objectives, right? Where you want to take the family, where you want to go, what you want to experience. If there's a race there,
do you go there on your own? Do you bring your family with you, and so on? Is there something else to do? Is this a part of the world that you want to visit as well, outside of racing?
I think that's one of the hard parts with Whistler. That Whistler has always when Gary Robbins, the race director who previously led a race in Whistler, when he first announced the race there, I immediately said this would be the one location that could in North America rival Chamonix because it has the infrastructure, right? They previously hosted the Olympics, so there's lots of hotel and infrastructure there. It's beautiful. I mean, it's not Mont Blanc beautiful, but the glaciers and the vistas, it's this really gorgeous area. And it's close to an international airport, close to a major city. But years ago, I always felt like this was a incredible destination where in North America in general, many of our races aren't in the most beautiful destinations, right? It is harder to combine your racing objectives with vacation because most of the national parks you can't race here and stuff, right? And the country is larger, so often the races are far away from other attractions, right? And so it gets a little bit trickier, and I think that's one of the reasons why Ironman hasn't expanded more in the US is they're actually having a hard time finding good locations that sort of fit that bill, right? Vacation destination, good local support, and attractive routes that can be up to 100 miles in order to bring people together, right? Yeah, and so it's challenging because in Europe you can get this much easier, and I think that's why these events have grown larger, faster, and
and
established
have been
themselves
also
more.
around for some
Yeah,
time. I mean, of course, you have these old traditional races in the US as well, with Western State and
yeah,
Hard Rock and Leadville, but there's also a challenge with getting into them.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, just the fact, I was just talking with somebody about it, just the fact that you mentioned only these three, which are notoriously hard to get into. Hard Rock has 150 runners, right? I mean, it's not enough. We don't have enough
no,
events
and
that
and then
are
there
these
are
big destination events. Yeah,
and then there are of course the other 100 milers around and 100 kilometers around, but and you could Google them up.
yeah,
Um, if you want to know that they exist and you just search them, but then as well, is this something that you would travel around the
yeah,
world for
yeah,
to do something else?
yeah. No,
Um,
it's true.
it's easier in the past. If I can look in the past when I went to Boston or I went to Chicago, Boston, of course, you then do 1 week in North England,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you discover Maine and New England and Boston itself. When I went to Chicago, I discovered then Minnesota and all the Swedish heritage that they had around there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So it could it could be combined with something else in an easy way that also worked out with the calendar
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Um, is
It's hard.
there
It's
some
hard to get to Silverton, right? I mean, you're like in the middle of nowhere, and it's beautiful. There's no question about it. But from an international travel point of view, trying to find the nearest airport and then renting a car for many hour driving and very few
yeah,
lodging opportunities, right? It becomes, from as an international traveler, it becomes a daunting challenge, and yeah,
and this point of view, it's easier if you stay in Europe and you have all those
mhm.
races as well there. Of course, I went once to the US and on vacation to this to see the southern western part with Arizona and Nevada, and like a European tourist going to
Yes,
the
yes.
US to
Route
discover the
66, you got
countryside.
to see it.
Yeah, yeah. And we combined it so that okay, we want to see the Grand Canyon. I managed to do a rim to rim to rim.
Fantastic, amazing. Yeah, yeah.
So, but required some planning, and I would not have done it if we would not have planned a vacation as well
Hmm, hmm.
because of the traveling.
Yeah.
But if you can do these things together, and that is what attracts me with these races, it's a nice thing to discover people and the parts of the world with the running and
Hmm,
racing.
hmm. I think this is a good sort of, it is a good way of looking at it and sort of closing off, because I think it represents an important mindset of the way you sort of approach finding races, that the overall objective is I'm anyway traveling and spending a lot of money, so it has to be a vacation, it has to be sustainable. And so therefore I want to run in not just beautiful places, but also accessible places and places with a certain amount of amenities that I know when I'm done with my race, I can be in a nice hotel, or I have restaurant option, or I have some places where I sort of can experience a little bit the scenery, right? One place in the US, one UTMB race that offers that is Kodiak. It's close to LA. It's a fairly easy drive to get up into the San Bernardino Mountains, and that Big Bear area is a very nice area to spend a couple days on vacation, and you can always drop down and spend a few more in LA if you want to. I think that location is pretty nice from looking at it from that objective.
Yep.
Well, fantastic. Federico, you've given me lots of your time. I very, very much appreciate it. I appreciate you telling the story of your running, giving us some insight into these awesome races like Snowdonia and Mozart, and of course the magical, mystical Kullemannan. And I'm so excited to hear that you signed up again. Now, now I want to follow your journey and make sure that that I keep tabs on how you're doing there. And of course, can't wait to hear what you end up deciding if you're gonna go for UTMB this summer or not, because if I make it into OCC, we might just run into each other in Chamonix. We should do a Mastodon meetup down there.
Oh yes, probably more than us two then.
Absolutely.
Yep. Good.
Okay, now finally, do you want to send people, if they want to connect, reach out? Is your Mastodon handle a good way of connecting?
Yeah.
Do you want to send them anywhere else?
That is the best thing.
That's the best way. Perfect. I'll link that in the show notes. Federico, have a great holiday. Have a wonderful new year. And I guess we'll talk very soon once the lottery results come in. And then we'll know what the next steps are.
Or any other news breaks out regarding our trail running world.
Our little trail running world, right? It's kind of fun to be involved in all of that because it's reasonably low risk, right? It's not truly politics. It's sometimes it feels a little heated, but it's
but it's in the end we're just enjoying our time in outdoors on the trails.
That is the perfect way of ending it.
And some trails are longer, some are shorter. We haven't even touched these short trail races, series, and so on. Yeah, but it's just our way to enjoy nature and outdoors.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening, and a huge thanks to Federico Hernandez for sharing a bit about his life and running journey, and for giving us some insight into the European trail world. This is Singletrack. Stay tuned for another incredible episode coming next week, and don't forget to visit Electric Cable Car at electriccablecar.com for your daily trail and mountain news. I'm your host, Matthias Eichler, signing off.